Australia under strict lockdowns, rights of citizens completely suspended.
Governor Newsom has gone too far. Governor Newsom has stepped on our liberties and our freedoms.
All right, I think I'm live. Now I just have to figure out how to invite my guest on here. But real quick before I do that, welcome to Free the Truth News. This is Jennifer Justice. It's my first time broadcasting from StreamYard live from my house, so you'll have to excuse any technical difficulties as I figure this out. But today I have with me Stephanie Locricchio. I got to see if I can pull her up. Let me see. Add to stream.
I'm here.
Hi. I figured it out. Okay. This is Stephanie Locricchio. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Real quick before we jump into it, I just want to go over a couple things that I talked about a few weeks ago, because we've been dealing with fighting flu mandates in the state of Massachusetts. And I don't even think that was a bill that went through. I think that the governor just passed it. So we're dealing with, people trying to do lawsuits against it. We've had protests and things like that. But I've been warning people, and I know a lot of other people who are in this movement have been warning people that this doesn't stop in Massachusetts.
Nope.
And so you're in New Jersey, and you're currently fighting against a similar bill, which is going to mandate the flu shot for school children, correct?
Yes. So it's actually, it's more than school children. Right now, the bill stands to mandate for K through 12 higher education and certain other students, which we assume is going to be like homeschool students, people who are trying to go back to like college or do online learning, those types of things. So it expands just beyond just children, which is very scary.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure, like with the Massachusetts one, what they're doing with that, but I'm super concerned about this because it's an annual vaccine, right? And so anytime you get a vaccine that often, it just increases your risk of having an adverse reaction, creating or building allergies to it, which would create an allergic reaction. And, a lot of people who are pro-vax, they're against this particular shot because of how ineffective it is.
Correct.
So do you want to talk a little bit on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the flu shot, it's funny because this morning, Tammy Murphy, who is the governor's wife here in New Jersey, posted about how important it is for our pregnant women to get their annual flu shot this season. She also mentioned Tdap, and I find it really comical because on the vaccine insert that was on my desk a little while ago, but who knows where I took it, it says right in the vaccine insert that they have not done sufficient testing to be able to tell you what the potential side effects for pregnant women would be. And yet we have the governor's wife recommending that pregnant women go. They do talk about increase in miscarriages and birth defects. So the side effects of the flu shot, it's a real thing. It's probably the number one, I think it is the number one paid out claim vaccine through VAERS, like as far as claims made. So there's definitely risk there. And the problem is that the flu, itself, the strain changes every single year. So it's kind of like putting on a blindfold and spinning around in a circle and like trying to throw a dart at a target. More often than not, we miss it. I mean, I think last year we were at 29%. There's been years where it was 15% effective. So my whole thing is, if people feel comfortable and they want to get the flu shot, it's there for them. They can go, they can get it as many times as they want, no problem. But to mandate something that is not effective every year and is less than 50% effective most years, and has a high risk profile as far as adverse reactions and the things that are in that vaccine, why should we mandate anybody to take it? I mean, we already have healthcare workers in New Jersey that are mandated to take it, and age 5 and under right now in New Jersey are mandated to take it if they're going into daycare or preschool. So we already have those situations in play in New Jersey, and to now mandate it for all students, basically, it's infuriating.
Yeah, that's oh my God. I can't even with this, because I know that this is all about eventually being able to push the COVID vaccine. That's what this is. And they're saying, so with the coronavirus vaccine, first of all, they just halted the testing because of a very serious adverse reaction, which the media is not even discussing. It was transverse myelitis, which is basically paralysis. This person can't move their hands or their feet. They're hospitalized right now, and the media is not even covering that. But the vaccine that is in the pipeline, there are states who are already talking about mandating it, and Fauci and Gates have both said that it's going to be a vaccine that we're going to be needing yearly. So it's another annual shot like the flu shot. However, we're going to need this one twice a year, if not more, is what they said.
Yes.
So if it's kind of the question of where do we draw the line? Those of us who have been in this fight for a while, we know that like we have no control as the people what goes on the mandated list. And there are over 200, 300 vaccines in the pipeline that they're working on.
I think 250 something vaccines in the pipeline right now.
250 vaccines, and we have zero control. Eventually, they're going to get to a vaccine that you don't want. So even if you're somebody who is for the flu shot, you think it's great. Even if you're someone who thinks, yeah, when the COVID vaccine comes out, I'll probably get it. Eventually, they're going to have a vaccine that you're like, nah, I don't want that one. And if we give up our rights, that's it. Like, you're not going to get them back.
And that's the thing. You know, they've done a really great job of polarizing. You're anti this, I'm pro that. And it creates this division, and it kind of creates an end to any conversation. Because at the end of the day, I'm only concerned with the decisions of what goes in my body and what goes in my child's body. I'm not worried about what anybody else is doing for their children or for themselves. It's a personal choice. I encourage people to do their homework, to read the vaccine insert, not to just take that one-page printout that they give you at the doctor's or the pharmacy that says that you might get a fever or some injection site rash. That's like the Cliff Notes version. I actually printed a vaccine insert the other day, and it was 40 pages long. 40 pages. So, you know, any kind of procedure, medication, anything that you do in our medical system, there is this thing called informed consent. And you are able to have a conversation about the risks and benefits and make a decision from a place of power. Somehow vaccines have become a religion in this country. And, you know, there's no conversation. It's just, this is what you're supposed to do. And I remember very vividly being in that position, being with my son. I have one child, and going to the doctor. And it was 2007 that he was born. So all this vaccine stuff with like Jenny McCarthy and all these things were just kind of surfacing. The whole BPA free bottle thing was huge at the time. And I remember like researching all this stuff. And I didn't have community. You know, I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have these groups where I could go and learn information about vaccines. All I had was my parents who vaccinated me as a kid. Granted, it was very different back then. And my doctor, who I trusted, who was my doctor when I grew up, and now she was my son's doctor, basically guilting and shaming me into believing that if I didn't do this, that I was a bad mom who was going to cause harm and injury to her child. So I did what I was told. Very slowly. I did it one at a time, which we know does absolutely nothing now, but I thought I was doing something good. And, you know, my son was constantly sick. He had constant ear infections. We had to have his tonsils shaved, his adenoids removed. He developed a milk allergy. Like, there was all kinds of things that happened. And it got to the point where he was like 3 or 4 years old. And I'm like, this is not normal. Something is wrong here. Something is broken. And no one can tell me what it is. I don't want to keep having him on antibiotics and doing all these things. So someone needs to give me some information. I switched pediatricians, and the same conversations that I had with this pediatrician that I started with, when I started having the conversations with this new pediatrician, he's like, listen, if you're not comfortable, if you're not sure, we're just going to hold off. We're not going to do anything else. You're fine. Like, you get to make the choices. And it was so refreshing. Went to a meeting with Rita Palmer, who's another activist out in New York. And I was in a room full of people, And they had this conversation about vaccine safety. And I was like, holy crap, I'm not crazy. I'm not some tinfoil hat wearing lunatic. Like, there are actually valid concerns here that I need to explore more. So this whole concept of anti-vax, most people that are quote unquote anti-vax are ex-vaxxers. And we made a decision based on situations that occurred as a result of just blindly listening to our doctors. So people need to start asking those critical thinking questions and doing the homework and making choices for themselves, because there is no one size fits all with anything. And it's certainly not the case with vaccines.
So yeah, I had a similar experience, except for with me, it was my own vaccine injury, which got me to start looking into things. And I didn't really start getting into the activism side of this until I had kids of my own. And I realized that there is no more informed consent when it comes to vaccines. There is no informed consent. Doctors tell you nothing. They don't tell you the risks. They don't even know how to look for adverse reactions. They don't know that VAERS exists. They have no clue.
They don't even know the ingredients, what they're injecting. If you ask a pediatrician for the top 5 ingredients in a vaccine, they'll just look at you like, I don't.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, right? So when I was first looking into it, I was going one vaccine at a time, deciding, because I thought, oh, well, some of them must be good. I'll go one at a time. We'll figure out which ones I want for my kids, which ones I don't. And I remember going into the doctor's office and he said, I noticed that you haven't vaccinated her. You really should consider getting the polio vaccine. And I said, well, okay, can you tell me what's in it? Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, it's just saline in the virus. And by that point, I knew it wasn't just saline in the virus. I was like, doesn't it need a growth medium? He's like, oh, yeah, well, they probably use egg for that. And I'm like, okay, well, doesn't it need like antibiotics to make sure that there's not any like something from the egg that's going to make my kids sick? Oh, yeah, there's antibiotics in there. I was like, can you give me a vaccine insert? And we read it together and I showed him where there was aluminum and there was polysorbate 80 and formaldehyde, and they have no clue.
No idea. And that's the thing, like one of the things that I always try to do is just to give people, because it's very, very difficult when you're a new mom and you're trying to have these conversations and you don't have, like, I wish that I could go back as the person that I am today, 12 years later, back to those conversations when my son was an infant, from this posture and from this confidence and this stance, because the doctors wouldn't stand a chance talking to me about this topic. Like, I would just run circles around them and make their head explode. But the problem is that this is not a mainstream conversation that's happening. People watch the news and they're told that, in order to be healthy, you got to wear a mask, you got to get your vaccines, all take this pill, take that pill. And really what we should be talking about is our God-given immune system, the ability that we have to heal ourselves, to support our immune system, to ward off bacteria and viruses, and the fact that we are walking bacteria and viruses. We're made up of like 340 trillion viruses. So, this whole concept of masking and vaccinating and all this stuff, just support the immune system that you have. Your body is designed to do this. It's just giving it what it needs. And that's the conversation that we should be having, but it's not going to happen.
And most of us that are called anti-vaxxers, what we really are is just pro-informed consent. And informed consent is more than just being educated on it. It's also having the freedom to make that choice once you are educated for yourself. So it's not, oh, okay, we'll inform you of all the risks, but you still have to get it. That's not informed consent because there's no consent there. But I kind of want to backtrack a little bit in New Jersey because, I don't remember if it was a few months ago or if it was like last year, because I've totally lost track of time when it comes to this. But New Jersey actually has one of the biggest success stories when it comes to fighting bills like these. Yes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So it was December and January. We had a bill that was up to remove our religious exemption. It was corrupt from go. The Senate Health Committee meeting, they basically took people out and put people in to make sure that it passed through the Health Committee. We had it on the agendas. It was supposed to be voted on. The Assembly did vote on it, and it went through by a huge margin. It wasn't even close. But the Senate, it was very close. So what we basically did was we took a multi-pronged approach. We were calling people every day. We had Twitter storms that we were doing. We gathered in masses on probably 5 or 6 days during December and January. And I'm not talking for 2 or 3 hour blocks. I'm talking 12, 13-hour days in the freezing cold, women breastfeeding their children. We had no porta potties on the first couple of days that we were there. We had people from all over the country sending us pizzas to be delivered because we were standing outside for hours on end. But at the end of all that hard work, toiling, and stress, there was a victory, because that bill never got voted on. It just basically was this, anticlimactic ending where the gavel dropped and I'm like, that's it, it's over, they're not voting on it. Oh my God. And it was the best feeling. But in that moment, our legislator basically declared war on us. Like, we're going to war with them because we made them look silly. Bills don't go on agendas unless they know that the votes are already counted and that they can move past the voting process and get it through. So the fact that it was on the agenda twice and didn't get voted on twice was nothing short of a miracle. And it was through this unified effort of these fierce moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody just gathering for the sake of freedom. And the energy of this grassroots, super organic movement of people just like showing up, bringing what they had, it was magical. Like, it was one of those things. Like, I always think about September 11th as being something that I will never forget, where I was or what I was doing or how I felt. And the Battle of Trenton, that whole experience is something that is ingrained in my body, because everybody just pitched in. There was no questions, no problems. Nobody was worried about what groups they were affiliated with. Everybody just pitched in and did their thing, and it was successful.
I have to say, it was one of the most amazing things I've ever watched, because I was getting all the lives from it. I was tweeting with you guys against all the politicians and in favor of the ones who are trying to support you guys. And just watching the whole thing it was amazing to see how many people. There were thousands of people who were shouting. So I had 2 lives going. I had one on my iPad and one on my phone. Mm-hmm. And in one, they were all outside shouting, kill that bill, kill that bill. Mm-hmm. And on the inside, you could hear the people from the outside.
The building was shaking.
Those legislators were so scared.
Yes.
You could see the fear.
Yes. The building was shaking. It was like unbelievable to hear that energy and to feel it, and to see, like, Senator Sweeney, who was the Senate president at the time that, declared war on us. He was at the podium and you could just see him sweating. He's like undoing his tie and loosening his collar. It was amazing. It was amazing. So we're hoping to recreate that next week on September 24th. We're having another rally. We're hoping we don't have to be there for 12 days. As of right now, it's not on the agenda. But my message to people in New Jersey is that once it's on the agenda, we're too late. They are not going to allow us to pull that same thing 2 times in a row. It's just not going to happen. So our work right now is to prevent this from getting on the agenda, and just to remind them that we're still here, still listening, and watching what they're doing, and we will not comply with any kind of a mandate, especially not a flu vaccine mandate. So that's something that we're going to be doing next week. And there's 2 other opportunities. September 25th and September 29th are 2 other days where they could potentially try to push this through. So, New Jersey's on notice right now, working our calendars, and we're just organizing, planning, and crossing group lines, and just making sure that we all have this one consistent message, because that's what won it for us in December and January, and that's what's going to win it for us again this time.
Awesome. You go, girl. If you have any links for that event, you send them my way. I'll post them on the page for people. I'm super, super excited to watch this grow again. But one thing I wanted to talk about, I have to be really tactful when I say this. And in the last live that you did, you were super tactful. I really admire you for it. But anytime you have a movement of any kind, there's always fear about, making sure you're doing things the right way, making sure you're doing things at the right time, worrying about whether or not there's co-opposition going on. There's always multi-layers and different opinions. And I think it's a waste of time to sit here and try and pinpoint like who's the co-opposition. It's a waste of time, and that's what the co-opposition wants. So not even talking about that. Let's just talk about the fact that, there's, other opinions where they feel that, oh, if we meet and we protest, now's not the best time. We shouldn't do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're free to feel that way.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage people to show up because I feel differently. I want to encourage people to show up, because what I'm going to share a video later after this, because I don't have the ability to pop that in here right now. But Matt Dougherty, I don't know if I'm saying it right. On the day that bill was killed, he came out and he did a speech, and he let you guys know that it was because of you guys showing up in mass that bill died.
Yep.
So, people want to talk about, we don't need to protest. We need to talk to legislators. We don't need to protest. We need to, be on Twitter. But all of those things are important. But the reason why that bill died was because you guys showed up. And so I want to encourage people, forget what everyone else thinks. What do you feel you should be doing right now? What do you think killed that bill the last time? And please, please, please show up for this. I'm going to post the event link after this.
For sure. And the truth is, relationships are something that are really important to build. But if our relationships in New Jersey were as solid as people say that they are, we wouldn't be fighting the battle that we're fighting as much as this past year has literally exhausted people. We have been under siege from every angle. And it's not just here in New Jersey. This is very much monkey see, monkey do politics. These democratically run states, we learn something from every state, whether they fall or they succeed, we learn something. So I think it's really important to be eyes wide open, looking around and seeing what's happening. And relationships are important. But at the end of the day, when legislators that you're building relationships with are sponsoring bills that go against what it is you believe in and stand for, you have to start to question, is the relationship enough? Or do you need to put that tremendous pressure on them to remind them who they work for, who puts them in office, and who will take them out of office? Because we're going into an election year in New Jersey for our local seats. And, I have a long list of people that I'm committed to getting out of office.
Yeah.
And, they've given us reason to. I was a regular Democrat for years. And, I know that politics is like a faux pas situation to talk about. But the truth is, when you're in this space and you're in this work, you have to look. You have to look at who's voting for these bills that are wreaking havoc on your family, your personal life, your sleep, your health, all of these things. Because it is, when you're a mom and when you're a mom and you feel that your child is in danger, there is something that happens in your body that it's like this fight or flight adrenaline coursing through your veins. You put your head down and you develop superhuman powers where you don't need sleep, you don't need to eat, you just need to know that your child is safe. And that's where we are right now in New Jersey. It's like you have to turn off all the noise and you have to really look inward to feel. I knew a companion bill was coming. I knew it was coming. I felt it in my bones. And sure enough, there it was. I know without certainty that the only way to save us from this bill passing is to gather, is to link arms and be there and hold their feet to the fire again. And that's what we're going to do. People that don't agree have to come.
Yeah. And you mentioned, with the voting them out and stuff, that is hugely important, because it doesn't matter how many times you guys show up, they're going to keep trying to pass the same bills. Why? Because they've been paid. They've been bought and paid. And that's why, yes, it's important to build relationships with your legislators. But if they've already been paid for by Big Pharma, you're not going to convince them over to your side. You're not, because they've already committed themselves to doing what Big Pharma wants. And I don't know what else to say. It's just, you got to pay attention to your local politics. Local politics are so important. If you're in Massachusetts, side note, totally off, but if you're in Massachusetts, Becca Rausch needs to be voted out. Pay attention to who is running for your legislation. Yeah,
it's super important. And it's people say all the time, it's not a political, it's a nonpartisan issue. We as medical freedom voting blocs did not make this a partisan issue. The Democrats made this a partisan issue by being the ones to consistently sponsor these bills that seek to take our freedom away. So, we didn't leave them, they left us. And it's not to say that we can't go back, but they have to give us a reason to want to go back, to be able to work with them and trust them again. So, it's you have to look at all the angles, and there has to be a multi-pronged approach to deal with this. There is going to be no one hero, no one group no one person that's going to make this right. It's going to be the efforts of every single person in these states collaboratively working together and linking arms to hold these legislators accountable to the constituents. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's why they say, that people have the power. People, plural. You need a lot.
Yeah, we do. We need lots.
Well, I'll be tweeting there with you. If you guys have any Twitter storms, let us know. We'll help you out. And yeah, send me that link. Sorry, my kids are upstairs banging on.
Don't worry.
You can hear
all the sound in the background. It's okay. We have this.
But is there anything else you'd like? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, we have an investigation going on. Herb Conaway, who's the assemblyman that sponsored the original bill from last year, and he's also the one that sponsored the flu bill from this year. We have an investigation going on with him here in New Jersey, so I will send you the link for that. It requires some signatures, and it's a letter to our Attorney General to basically investigate where his allegiances lie, because he's also a physician. So we've seen a lot of money, pharma money, going his way. And it just begs the question, is he working for we the people, or is he bought and paid for by an industry that he's pushing forward their agenda? So we need answers to those questions. So we definitely would love people to go on, and we will most certainly be sharing Twitter storms. So wherever you are in this country, if you can please take to Twitter and help us to speak to our legislators. It's so important right now to work across state lines. So if there's anything we can do to help Massachusetts, or I can do to help Massachusetts, please let me know, because we want to make sure every state that falls is something that's not good. It doesn't matter if you live there or not. We need to preserve medical freedom in these states, and too many have fallen, in my opinion, already. So we need to prevent more.
Agreed. I think one thing that people don't realize is it would be too hard for them to pass these bills federally. It would be way too hard. However, if they pass in enough states, it becomes federal law. And this is why we all have to stand together across the nation for all the states that are in this fight.
100%.
Thank you so much again for coming on, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me. It was so nice to meet you. I'm so happy you have StreamYard.
Yes, me too. I figured it out.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Keep in touch.
Yes.
All right.
Bye-bye.
I don't know how to.
So on the bottom, it should say end.
Yeah, I have to end the whole video.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching Free the Truth News. I will be posting follow-ups on this story and articles for you to read, hashtags for you guys to start tweeting. So thank you for watching.